Now, if y'all read almost anything at all, you've probably been exposed to a lot of theories, maybe in school, about how all the people came up across through Japan and China and across the Bering Strait and came on back down along the coast and turned into Indians. Well, that's not the way I taught my classes. Because that's not the way I'm figuring it really happened. Those people that make up those theories are European descent, and they have a post-European culture, and they think everything started from the other side of the world, and it didn't. I teach my kids that everything started in Central America. You know, the Mayans came up into the North American continent through the Caribbean, through a chain of islands up into Florida, and peopled that part of the continent east of the Mississippi. The Aztecs, and both of those peoples were from the same stock. The Aztecs come up the mainland through Mexico, and they turned into plain tribes and the western tribes. And I would imagine that the Coast Salish tribes up here are distant descendants of the Aztecs. And they went on up there, and maybe they went across the Bering Strait and made Chinese. Anyhow, I put too much time into that. But I was up in Mount Vernon one day in the laundromat doing my laundry, and I saw this woman, you know, and she's a relative of mine. A very, very, very distant cousin. She's Mexican, I imagine. I didn't talk to her, I just watched her. And so, it might just be my own conjecture. But I wrote this piece while I was sitting on the counter waiting for my clothes to dry. And the title is, Buenas tardes, Senora Pariente Lejana. And the subtitle is, Quede claro porque tan pocas veces podemos ver jóvenes chicanos sin sus ropas limpiar emplanchados. It becomes clear why we seldom see young Chicanos without clean, pressed clothes. It's true. She steps hard-jawed into the laundromat, back out and in again quickly, all business, with baskets of clothes for the washers, the dryers, to be sorted judiciously and fed along with scrimpy quarters into the machines she can't afford for home. Years of making do and the gravity of labor wear down her cheeks. They weigh down her cheeks, her breast, while age has thickened her middle, and still, as through some miracle of intent, she holds that line, that appearance for the world, with fresh clothing and a hint of makeup. Laundering clothes for her family, she is a nation of brownskins. She's a nation of brownskins speaking language of their long ago oppressors, but blending native ways into foreign forced cathedrals that would separate humans from the world. Thus we preserve bits of heritage. She stands here north of an imaginary line sketched on our earth by the invaders, and sorts clothing that laundered and pressed will show the world a resilience, a will to survive, a history impossible to erase, a strength residing in the blood. I don't want to run over very much. I got one more piece I'd like to share with you. I got a little song I was going to sing, but we just don't have time for that. And already we had lots of good songs. Hey, how many times would you walk into a poetry reading with a slide guitar, and there's another slide guitar player, and he's good. Y'all want to come back and support him. He's good. Anyhow, the descendants of some of those people that came up through Florida and turned into Cherokees and Choctaws and Osage and different tribes and Miamis, and married with hillbillies, English and Irish and so on. I got some Irish too. Anyhow, they ended up being poor white factory workers coming up in Indiana and Ohio and making the things that made America the greatest nation in the world for a while. History. Anyhow, I was raised up among hillbilly factory workers. And most of them were mixed blood, although not all of them would admit it. And this is an old poem I wrote a long time ago, but I still like it, so I'm going to lay it on you. And it's called Fender, for our grandparents. And this is in a chapbook that I published that's titled Junkyard Dogs, and there's a CD, the same name, and they're both out of print, but I'm trying to get my little feces together, you know, and get at least the CD back online so I can sell a few of them and pay the rent. Fender, for our grandparents. Faintly calling from the back corner of an old junkyard, a resting hulk bids me approach. Pause. The turn of metal in an old Ford fender speaks as my hand rubs over it, my fingers flat against the smooth curve of time gone by. The turn of this metal was formed long ago from steel of global righteousness, in a mill now closed with blind windows agape. This metal was stamped long ago by a man now gone, whose forgotten wages brought tricycles for the kids, bought a washing machine for the wife, bought whiskey for those memories he packed away with him in the morning of his life. The same smooth curve that defined existence for how many June bugs along evening highways in the two-lane past. This same turn of metal that gleamed from afternoon washes in a gravel drive there beside the front porch where an old-style gentleman carved neat chunks of watermelon with a pocket knife and fed himself without ever a drop on that Sunday suit he wore as he sat distant-eyed in the swing. This nobly conceived fender recalls evening's release, a craftsman strolling with his colleagues from clockhouse to parking lot after a long day at work. Recalls time shared with friends, cold beer, fishing rides. This nobly conceived fender recalls walking like a man or not at all, recalls standing the hot words regardless. This old fender regales my hand with chuckling tales of bourbon and cloak evenings. Bourbon and cloak evenings and a woman's throaty laughter when second shift is over and jukeboxes call and chicken shack windows shine with the steel song of dobro guitars, pushing night aside for a while. The smooth turn of real metal in this old fender sings of the man who stamped it and lived out his days, of the man who faded photo molders somewhere hidden away, sings of the man whose family dispersed into separate realities. The smooth turn of real metal in this old fender sings of the man whose work awaits oblivion in this junkyard and in all the junkyards, and sings of a lifetime disappeared from this round world, and sings of a day when even the junkyards will be gone, for history quickly devours our trampled memories, and seeing time toss her endings carelessly into the dust, wise men tread gently. Thank you.